Everybody, it is Tuesday, August the 12th, and we've had a very interesting, productive day here at Fantasy Insiders. This is the daily fantasy MLB show, sponsored by FantasyElite, the app that you can get in the App Store. But we made some announcements today, and we have some more announcements to come in the future. Number one is that Evan Silva and JJ, late round QB, will be on the shows for football. So that doesn't suck. And then number two is that in addition to Dave, Davis, Dan, any more D's? No. We've got TJ Hernandez, who wrote for us last year, but also Sean Siegel. Is that how you say it, Davis?
I believe so.
At FF_Contrarian. He won the NFFC last year. And
also had a team come in third.
Yeah, first and third, high stakes player. He's going to be writing some upside plays for us. So it's going to be fun to kind of get into the mind of Mr. Siegel there. And then also Trevor Belongia. I don't even know if that's how you say his name. His username is TF Belongia. If you've been playing, you've seen his name kind of up there in most of your games. He's a big-time player. Won a seat to Atlantis for the DraftKings event last week. So he will also be writing for us. So we have, Davis, as you would say, that squad.
That squad, son.
So, big news today was the USA Today news as far as industry goes. They are launching a daily fantasy platform. And it is going to be like part of their USA Today networks. So that's certainly interesting. I know we talked about it a little bit, but really it just kind of increases the awareness for daily fantasy and legitimizes it to all their huge customer base.
Yeah, it's gonna be sick. I'm looking forward to playing, seeing what it's like. I don't know. I always like playing the new platforms if there's volume to be had. 5, sure.
Yeah, so, I mean, I don't even know, like we were talking about earlier, I don't even know if it's going to be a successful site, but again, generally what you have are these people that try out daily fantasy and then they start looking for more, like they want to quench their thirst. So I think it benefits all the existing sites like DraftKings, FanDuel, Elite, Draft Day, all these other sites. So the fact that someone with as large of a media network as USA Today has is going to be in the daily fantasy game, I think it's a big deal, and it kind of helps those other sites. They said they didn't want to replace any of the big sites. They think the pie is going to grow enough where they can still be successful. So as a daily fantasy advice site, that was good to hear.
Yeah, that's pretty cool, and I mean they're probably right. Like, what is it, like less than 10% of the seasonal fantasy football market has even heard of daily?
Yeah, I mean, we hope they're right. We're kind of banking on them being right. But if you think about all the people in your home leagues that do not play daily, if you take 4 or 5 of those guys in each home league, once it goes mainstream, I mean, it could be something pretty big.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's talk about baseball though. Let's run through these games. Cardi has to go see about a girl, I think. So we're gonna try and get done maybe a little bit early today.
He's got his shirt unbuttoned.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Is that like? I mean, you can already tell he is ready to go. Too sexy.
Yeah, he is. So the first thing we need to do, talking about games today, we got to run through all of the games that are a weather concern. Yankees-Orioles got canceled. Diamondbacks-Indians is 10, 20, 30 in terms of percentage chance of rain during the game. Detroit at Pittsburgh is 40% at the peak with scattered thunderstorms. Dodgers-Braves is at 35% with isolated thunderstorms. Nationals-Mets looks like it's probably not going to happen. That's 80% at first pitch. Let's see. There's one more, I think. Nope, looks like that's it. Yeah, so there are definitely some games where there's some pretty attractive hitters, particularly the Pirates against Robbie Ray. that it's probably not super safe to roster anyone going against them, which sucks. I mean, Jordy Mercer is batting in the 3 hole against a lefty and just a destroyed bullpen.
What is Clint Hurdle? I think is the manager there. What is he thinking? Like
He wants to
Jordy
score
Mercer in the
runs.
3 hole. He wants to score more runs.
Yeah, I mean that's the only plausible explanation, right?
Oh. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. We'll just say that.
All right. Well, you wrote pitchers up today, so give me your Sale versus Wainwright take.
My Sale versus Wainwright take is that Sale is, in my opinion, the more talented pitcher to begin with. He is getting a bigger park boost. He,
He's against an offense that strikes out a lot.
yeah,
It's at
he's
the bottom
against
half.
an offense that strikes out a lot, and it's an offense that is very like diluted from what we kind of thought it would be at the start of the year. Like Belt's on the DL again. Mike Morse isn't hitting well enough to even be playing every day. Like there's a ton of dead holes in there with Duffy at shortstop now, or Crawford, even if they play him there today, and Panic at second. Like it's not a good offense. And though Wainwright is a good play, I still have concerns that something fishy is going on. No pun intended at Marlins Field or Marlins Park, because I mean there's just no reason that offense should be hitting as well as they did with that park this consistently. And they are an offense that has gotten very, very left-handed of late with the additions of Valdespine and Salty off the DL a few weeks ago. And so, I don't know. Wainwright's a good play. Sale is a better play. That's my analysis.
Yeah, I mean, and if you are so inclined on DraftKings, it's really not even hard to do Sale and Wainwright with Wainwright's tag so low and with some of the value hitting options today. Like I got Trout, Wainwright, and Sale in a lineup without having to go like super punty anywhere.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think Wainwright's probably my 3 today. Like I want to see what the Twins lineup looks like, but I think Colin McHugh might be my number 2 guy.
Really, Colin McHugh. I mean,
Yeah,
I'm a
the
fan.
The Twins lineup is just so gross lately. They traded Willingham yesterday. Like, I don't know. Mauer's back from the DL, so that's like the one thing that's like, if he wasn't there, it would be like a slam dunk thing. But
Their lineup just came out. It's Danny Santana, Dozier, Mauer, Vargas, Plouffe, Suzuki, Arcia, Escobar, Schaefer. So kind of left-handed with 2 switch hitters.
yeah, not as good as I was hoping for. So, but I still think McHugh was a good play today.
I think that he is too, but just with the way their price points are working out on DraftKings, I do think Wainwright's probably the safer second option.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, then again, wait,
Safer. I would give. I would give you safer, although if you do think there is something to the whole Marlins Park thing, then maybe there's risk involved there. But
well, and Wainwright just doesn't strike anybody out. Like this,
yeah, Wainwright,
it's
like
been
that's
bad.
one of the Wainwright's strikeout rate has like maybe not so quietly fallen off this year, and even last year it was barely over 8 per 9. Like he's not the pitcher he used to be. He's 30, almost 33 now, I think. Like he's getting older, and you know, I don't think he's in the same tier from just an underlying talent perspective as guys like Sale or Felix are. Like he's not that elite ace anymore.
No, he's not. And I mean, some of his like, it's kind of weird because some of his like pitches, like his individual pitches, grade out really well on like the Pitch FX pitch value stuff that Fangraphs has. But a lot of that is reliant on having like a league average whiff rate, but having like insane ground ball rates is sort of where that stuff comes from. And so, like, I do think that he's not as valuable as a fantasy entity. I know people see the name Wainwright, they know the pedigree, they know what he's done, and they assume that he's a lot better than he's been.
Yeah, that's absolutely spot on.
Even like peripherals wise right now.
Even peripherals wise, I mean, what does he have? Like a 350 or 360 xFIP or something? Like it's not what you would think when you see Wainwright.
He's no Clayton Kershaw.
No.
Yeah. Okay. Well, what about Lester? Do you have any love for Lester tonight?
I mean, it's beating a dead horse, but Kansas City doesn't strike out. They don't. And Lester no longer has. He's been good with Oakland so far, but he no longer has David Ross, who he had like a ridiculous rapport with, and who is a great pitch framer. So I don't know who's actually catching tonight, whether it's Norris or Vote or JSO, our lineup pages just give
They're all
fantasy
three.
positions.
They're all three in the lineup.
They're all three in the lineup, but who's catching?
Norris is the one catching.
Okay, yeah. I mean, it's not like any of them are really, favorable for pitchers,
but Norris is the best one.
Yeah. So Lester, I don't know. For his price tag, I'm not about him. I think the Royals' offense is, especially with the addition of Willingham now, I think they're better than people give them credit for, and they really don't strike out. They really don't.
No, at least in the league by a very real
margin.
Like
it sounds cliche now because it's said so often, but it's true.
Yeah. Is worth noting though, my Royals are now in sole possession of first place in the division, the latest they've held such honor since 1985, and I got to see it in person yesterday, which was really pretty cool, honestly. Do you have a favorite baseball team, Derek, or are you just a fan of the game?
At this point, really more of a fan of the game. I grew up as a Mets fan, and there's a little place in my V-neck exposed heart for the Mets, but really, whoever's on my fantasy team is way more important to me.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, I can't even think of anyone else that I'd want to use. I mean, like, do you have any love for Doug Fister? I guess that game's probably not even going to happen. Maybe Jeremy Hellickson versus the Rangers?
I'm going to throw out a guy that's super probably off the board. I'm rolling him out definitely in a GPP today on DraftKings, and that's TJ House.
What?
TJ House isn't a bad pitcher. TJ House is going to wind up in the bullpen, and he's going to be a ridiculous loogie at some point. Mark my words. But for right now, they're using him as a starter, and the matchup is pretty good. Like, he has a really good sinker and a really good slider, so he's going to be able to dominate lefties, and because Kirk Gibson doesn't know what he's doing, he bats Inciarte leadoff. He has Pennington second. He has Peralta, another lefty, third. Montero is in there. Lamb, who they just called up, is in there. There's a lot of lefties in that lineup. So really, Hill is the only righty, unless you think Trumbo is like getting back on track, that House is going to have to worry about in that lineup. And they're getting a big park downshift going from Chase to Progressive. So it's not like House is a cash game guy for me, but as a GPP guy, absolutely. And even, I mean, if you love hitting today, like as a second guy on DraftKings, I wouldn't tell you like don't do it. I mean, there's risk, but I like him.
I do absolutely love hitting today, but they're like cheap guys that I really like. Like Mark Krause, I think, is in a hashtag super amazing good spot. Maybe not that great, but he is in a pretty good spot.
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you think about Jeremy Hellickson as a pitcher? He's sort of a guy who beat his peripherals for quite a while and then did get shelled a little bit and then has been hurt.
Yeah, he's a guy who was beating his peripherals basically because he was doing a lot of stuff differently from the stretch. So when runners were on base, he wasn't allowing them to score as much because of the way he was able to like repeat his mechanics. Or it's been a couple of years since he's even been relevant, so I'm forgetting a little bit. But that was basically why he was beating his projections. And then it just stopped all of a sudden. And then he got hurt, and then he was irrelevant, and now he's back. So he's a guy who I think you treat as a below-average pitcher. So in Arlington, it's not like Texas has a lot of lefties, really, that you're scrambling to get in your lineup, but maybe Chu, he's heating up lately. So
Mike Carp, no.
Mike Carp, maybe, as like a punt on DraftKings, for sure.
I
can see playing some Rangers bats against him.
I haven't even looked because I'm locking in Van Slyke to that third outfield slot, but I bet he's pretty cheap on FanDuel, too. I don't know. I think that's probably all the pitchers that we need. What about C.J. Wilson? He's like dumb cheap. I don't know enough to diagnose if he does have mechanical problems or whatever, but this could be a pretty good spot for him.
I haven't had a chance to look at his mechanics, but judging by his PitchFX data, his stuff looks pretty much completely intact, at least from what you can tell from PitchFX data. His command is obviously off. I mean, he's been awful in his 2 starts off the DL. He was awful in his few starts before the DL. But he's in a really good spot today. I mean, the Phillies' offense is super left-handed. He's going to have the platoon against everybody of note, aside from, like, Rollins and Ruiz. But, like, everybody else, it's at home. It's in Angels Park. Phillies are coming from Citizens Bank. So, I don't know. I think in a GPP, honestly, I'm rolling a GPP today. I think with Wilson and House, just in like a moonshot entry, just because I think those guys are so cheap and they have upside. So
It's gonna be hard for you to spend all of that money, because like
I found that and I couldn't spend it. So I think I wound up upgrading Wilson to McHugh, but only because I had like $2,000 extra.
yeah, like they're like honestly are not even like I think Brandon Moss is one of the best first base options, and he's 2,900 on FanDuel.
He's a hard guy for me to roster. He's just been so bad lately.
Well, I did see him play yesterday, and he put together some pretty good at bats versus Ventura. Like for whatever that is worth. I don't know if I don't know. Do you think maybe he's just becoming Pittsburgh Brandon Moss again? Like, is that a thing? Like, is he just regressing to his terrible, terrible mean?
I don't think so. I mean, I think really we're probably he's going through a cold spell. He needs to make some adjustments, and he's going to be fine. But I do want to get a look at him. But I mean, he had his stuff together. Like, well, obviously he was doing so well for 3 years now. He had fixed his mechanics to the point where he really was doing well at the plate, and he should have been expected to keep doing that. So he probably just needs a couple little tweaks, and he's going to be okay. But, on a day-to-day basis, I don't know if he's a guy I'm putting in my lineup yet.
All right. Well, it is. We're going to try and get you out here a little bit earlier so that you can go do whatever it is you need to do. So let's just start talking about stacks right now. If the weather in Pittsburgh does clear up, all of the Pirates. Each and every last one of the Pirates.
I know you love the Pirates, but
dude, how much more can that bullpen do? What can they do to stop? Like, they've pitched how many innings the last several days?
That is true.
And it's not like Robbie Ray was terrible when he got called up and then got sent back down. And he's a lefty, and the Pirates, I mean, I guess if you look at their 1 month WOBA splits versus lefties, it's probably not great. But if you look at the underlying projections for their right-handed batters, they mostly all project to destroy left-handed pitching.
Yeah. Given the bullpen thing, I can see the Pirates. On a normal night, I wouldn't, just because there are a lot of bad pitchers going, and that is a bad park. But for a taxed bullpen with a starter who, might have some trouble of his own, I can see going with some Pirates.
Wow, it looks like it's down to 0% at game time on daily baseball data for the Pirates.
Well,
0-30.
Well for that stack.
Yeah, 0-30-50, but that was down. I mean, that was down from 70, 85, 90.
Yeah, that changed a lot.
A ton of these games, the Braves now are down at 0%.
The Mets game is up at 100 to start, so Fister, Montero guys, not an option. Those hitters might even be really risky at this point.
Yeah. Outside of that, though, left-handed Rays bats, though, I think are going to be a pretty popular stack tonight.
I think they're going to be a popular stack, and I think to a certain extent they're going to be good plays. Like a guy like Zobrist at a shallower position like second base is going to be a really good play. Probably Joyce. But you have to consider the park, too. It's not a good park. So there are... Oh, wait. No, they're in Arlington. Why did I think they were in... Okay, yeah. I can totally see that then.
Yeah. So I'm about that life. I normally like Joyce anyways. Joyce is just such a nice play. On a date against right-handed pitching.
As long as you don't have too many Joyce-esque players, like guys who are basically home run or bust,
But you can't call Joyce that type of player because his walk rate's so good.
Yeah, that's true. But at the same time, I mean, you're going to call Adam Dunn that type of player, and he walks even more than Joyce does. So,
but he's not as good of a hitter as Joyce is. And Joyce is almost always cheap.
And it's not like I disagree with you. Yeah, Joyce is cheap. Joyce is in a good spot. He's probably going to wind up in my lineups, but.
Yeah.
So, yeah, no disagreement there.
Okay, let's just move on. Let's start talking about the positions. Catcher, I mean, don't make me say it, because it actually is a real thing today. It's a very real thing today.
Go ahead.
My two favorite guys, Jaso batting second versus Guthrie, and Mike Zunino at home versus J.A. Happ against the lefty. Like those are my dudes. Zunino is almost kind of an autoplay for me against left-handed pitching. Like I know you don't believe in those huge splits. I'm actually interested to see what your system has to say about Zunino and his platoon split.
I'd have to say he's a kind of guy where he doesn't have a lot of data in the majors yet, and he's a righty, so he's probably going to have a pretty normal split because you regress righties really far, and he doesn't have a whole lot of data to begin with. But I can check on it.
Yeah, and I think that just for dailies, I think that I am more likely to play someone like Zanino, even though Batman might not necessarily really like Zanino tonight, because I bet he'll bat between 7th and 9th in the order, and there are some things there. But against Hap, who I don't think is as good as he's been this season, and I do sort of buy into the big, massive platoons, like obviously with Mercer and stuff. I sort of buy more into that for dailies than I do. Like it would be different if I was projecting Zanino over like a full season, I think though. But for dailies, it's different.
I don't know. I put a lot of weight into batting order position, especially if the team isn't projected to score like a ton of runs. It's hard giving up a potential at bat. There's a lot of value in that. At catcher, it's easier to do than at another position, but it's not something that I'm happy to do on a night with a full slate with a lot of weak pitchers going.
Jaso or Zanino?
Jaso.
Okay, cool. Awesome. Who are some other catchers that popped out for you?
I thought... Crap. Sorry, my computer's being really weird right now.
It's okay, I can just talk about how good Jeremy Guthrie is.
Go ahead and talk about how good Jeremy Guthrie is. Let me figure this out for 1 sec.
No, I mean, as much as a Royals fan as I want them to win this game tonight and to increase the lead over the Tigers, it just doesn't set up very well for them because Jeremy Guthrie is pretty bad, and Jaso hasn't been very good either, but batting second against Jeremy Guthrie is about as hashtag of a good spot as it gets, and if you don't want to play him, you can spend up a little bit more on FanDuel to 2.9 and play Zanino. He is sort of a home run or bust type player, but we've seen it. This is incredibly anecdotal, so everyone should probably not listen to this. But when Seattle scores runs, they score like a trillion of them. Like they just have those gnarly like 9-run innings. So maybe I'm gonna extend my A's rule where batting order doesn't matter to the Mariners. Maybe I'll just make it an AL West rule.
Okay. You think Hap is that bad where that could happen to him? Like, I feel like there's a lot of like worse pitchers tonight that I don't know.
There is, but I mean, I think he's a mediocre pitcher, and I like. We have a different opinion on Zanino's skills, though. Is where it's not the matchup; it's the skills of the hitter, which is fine. Yeah. Someone just mentioned. Oh yeah, Papa Cub mentioned Castro. Yeah, he's like if you're going Stacks.
Sure, yeah.
If you're going Stackstros tonight, that's the dude. That's like the first dude you're looking at getting in against Johan Pena away from target field.
Yeah, I'm sure we don't have a lineup there yet, but he's going to be. Oh yeah, we do have a lineup. He's batting cleanup. Yeah, that's what you expect. So yeah, Castro's probably your top catcher tonight.
Yeah. So that's pretty nice. I guess
I could also see maybe Hank Conger if he's in the lineup, depending where he's batting against Jerome Williams.
See, he'll bat like 9th though. They always bat their catchers.
Yeah, they do.
So. Okay, let's move on. Let's talk about middle infield. I'm just gonna let you do the analysis here because I don't have an opinion. I don't know who to play. Like I have Tommy La Stella at second base right now just because I think Dan Herron sucks. But like middle infield is weird today.
Oh, let me just throw out Devin Mesoraco, especially as like a GPP catcher, just because of the park and because Joe Kelly's not that good. So anytime those two things match up, he's always going to be a threat to go deep.
Yeah.
But second base, I have a hard time recommending him because he says that he's playing through injury, but he hasn't been that bad lately. So I think Jason Kipnis is a really good play against Cole Mentor. I think that Cleveland lineup has a lot of potential to put up some big runs because they're so left-handed against a weak pitcher like Cole Mentor, who's coming into the AL. But aside from him, I mentioned him earlier, Ben Zobrist going into Arlington against Tepish is definitely an option. Given his price tag, he might be the guy you really want to roster tonight because he's one of the top plays and he's relatively inexpensive.
Yeah. What do you think about Listella batting second versus Heron? Are you on that at all?
Um, a little bit. I can see it, but uh, I don't know. I don't think Heron's a terrible pitcher. It's not as good of a park as a guy like Zobrist is going to be in, or as a guy like Altuve is going to be in, or some of these other guys that are going to be options. Even Dozier. I mean, I like McHugh, but the park shift is going to be big.
Yeah.
So
I think if you're spending tonight, would you say it's Altuve versus Peno? Just based on run expectation?
versus
Peno,
oh
whatever.
no. I think Altuve comes in. It's really a cluster at the top for me. It's Kipnis, Zobrist, Altuve, close, and I think that's the order I go with them.
Yeah. I'd also like to give a mention to Justin Turner tonight against Mike Minor. I'm on like this big like Mike Minor is terrible thing, and the Dodgers lineup is kind of weird tonight, where he's batting fifth. I think he's batting behind Van Slyke. So
As
and
a
they're
punt, I can get behind that.
So I think he's in a hashtag pretty
As
good
a
spot.
DraftKings punt, maybe it looks like he's 3,200 on FanDuel, which is ridiculous, but he's 33 on DraftKings. So
Yeah. Well,
I'm
FanDuel
there.
just does that. You never know what they're doing with their pricing.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's probably it for me at second base. Like I think, Howie Kendrick too. If you're just trying to get exposure against Romy Rome, he's like 2,500 on FanDuel.
Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Let's just move on. Let's talk about shortstop. I mean, it would be Jordy Mercer as like an auto play for me. Like if the rain clears up.
Who did you say, Jordy Mercer?
Yeah. And you'd be on board with me here. He's don't even pretend like you wouldn't be.
Normally, I'd pretend like I wasn't, but Jordy Mercer actually looks like a really good play tonight. Especially when you factor in that bullpen thing. I mean, he's already showing up third on the bat. Behind.
He's showing up that I haven't pulled it up yet today. He's that high.
As in terms of shortstops, it goes
Yeah.
Castro, Reyes, and then Mercer. So
Yeah. Oh, we should talk about Chris Young just for a second, because I think people are gonna maybe be on the Blue Jays a little bit, but I was talking about this with Jordan last night, and Chris Young beats xFIP. He's always gonna beat xFIP because he's such an extreme fly baller, and I know Chris Young is sort of like your Eric Bedard, but I think that this is a perfect marriage of pitcher and park. Like I think he's really just figured out how to pitch at Safeco.
And for his entire career, he's always managed to limit home runs. Like his home run per fly ball rate is consistently lower than it otherwise should be. He still gives up home runs because he puts so many balls in the air, but he's not a terrible pitcher. And he's always kind of had a below average batting average on balls in play. I don't know if it's because he's such a tall pitcher and like there's so much like deception with his ball. Like it seems like it comes out of his hand like quicker, batters say, because he releases it so close to the plate. So I can see how that sort of thing might induce weak contact. So he's not like the peripherals are bad, but you shouldn't pick on him probably as much as the peripherals would indicate.
Yeah. So, in other words, and also you don't necessarily want to take ground ball hitters against fly ball pitchers anyways. So that was my way of saying maybe don't spend up for Jose Reyes tonight, even though some systems might indicate that you should. I think if you don't want to do the Mercer thing, I think the way to go is Eric Ibar against Jerome Williams. He's so cheap on FanDuel, and he's 3,400 on DraftKings. Like he's like the most affordable shortstop on those sites.
I'm totally cool with that for his price tag.
And they randomly bat him like fifth too.
Yeah, they batted him, it looks like fourth last time, so that's really weird. But yeah.
Yeah.
And if they're gonna put him in a position like that, go ahead.
Yeah, I don't know what they do sort of switch that lineup up every once in a while, so I'm kinda interested to see what they do, but I do really like him. I don't know, I'm trying to see. Do you like Emilio Bonifacio at all versus Heron?
I don't know. I just feel like there's better guys to pick on tonight than Heron. Like I think Bonifacio's an okay play, but probably not. Like there's other places I'm going to be looking.
And I'm going to say this like every day for the rest of the season, but Javi Baez as a tournament option, you can just, especially against Peralta, who just is sort of prone to dongage, for sure. I just think he's a great He's a great play, just in
Yeah.
tournaments most of the time. All right.
Plays great.
Any other middle infielders?
Mm, no, I think that kind of covers it.
Okay, cool. First base. So this is sort of weird, where like a lot of the top options don't have super optimal matchups, and you're not really wanting to play any of these guys. I mean, the most expensive one I can see liking is kind of Carlos Santana versus Cole Mentor. But like if you were spending on first base, would any of these guys intrigue you?
It's kind of the same situation it was yesterday, where like none of the top first basemen really had matchups where you're going to want to pay up for them. So you'd almost rather just punt first base, like go with like Jonathan Singleton tonight, or like Mark Krause, or someone like that.
It's kind of weird to me, but honestly, I feel like punting first base is the most plus EV form of punting, because first basemen who suck can still be really good DFS players, but like second basemen who suck are like rarely good punts. Like, does that make sense? Like, you're never getting a second baseman batting cleanup in a good situation for 2,200. You know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
But like,
Yeah, and I feel like punting first base in general is just like something people are very loath to do, and I think it is a viable strategy. Definitely worked out last night. I punted with Casey McGahee on DraftKings, and that worked out well.
you know who I punted with yesterday that the bat told me to punt with?
Who's that?
Ike Davis.
Oh, not he was in the FanDuel one. Yeah.
Dude, I think if Jesse Hahn wouldn't have given up that home run yesterday, I think I would have won all of the single entry GPPs on DK. But
Yeah.
honestly, I was just happy to win again, because I'd been making, like, the last 3 days I made some of the dumbest lineup decisions ever that like I knew were dumb at the time, but I was so frustrated that like I didn't know what to do. So it felt good to get a dub again, as Steve Fink would say.
Yeah. So I think if you are going to pay up for first base today, it's David Ortiz. He's going into an awesome park in Great American. Matt Latos just has not been the same this year. So Ortiz is the guy you're going to pay for if you're going to pay for someone.
Yeah.
Or Chris Carter, I guess, where he's first base on DraftKings, right? So
Correct.
Yeah.
I mean, so did we talk about this on the show, or was this before the show we were talking about Brandon Moss? I can't even remember.
on the show. Yeah, we already mentioned
I'm playing Brandon Moss.
him. He ranks high, but he's not a guy I think I'm about taking, just because I don't know. I think something's wrong.
Derek, I just got a question. Did you have you reworked the underlying projection for McHugh?
No, that's
just his.
Yep, that's what he's at.
Okay. I do like. There was a punt first baseman that I liked earlier, and I'm trying to remember who it was. Oh, it was Vargas versus McHugh, just because I think Vargas is a really good punt play, and also Pirates Gabby Sanchez punting with him versus Robbie Ray. I also don't think is terrible, though he is batting down farther than you would sort of like.
Yeah, I think if you're punting, it's like Krause and Singleton are probably the guys I'd be looking at. Probably Krause.
Yeah, Krause for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, third base. I don't know what to do with third. I don't like anyone. I don't even like one player at this position. So tell me who to play.
I mean, I'm sure. Yep, there we go. Adrian Beltre is going to be your top guy. He's at home in Arlington against Hellickson, so he's going to be awesome. Todd Frazier, more of a GPP guy, but anytime you have a guy like that, him and Mesoraco are basically like perma GPP plays against weak pitchers in Great American, because there's always the chance that they're gonna home run. Evan Longoria is a good play tonight. There's a lot of good third basemen tonight. I don't know what you're thinking of. Longoria is getting a big park shift. Carlos Santana is in that lefty-heavy lineup against Cole Mentor at DraftKings, where he's third base eligible. Donaldson is against Guthrie.
Chisenhall was the one that I wanted, but that game had rain in it, but it looks like it's better now. And remember, I just platoons, all of the platoons.
Okay, yeah.
So,
see, my top three guys are all not having the platoon, but there's other things working in their favor where I think...
but like, do those other things even matter though, Derek? Do they? It was really funny. On Sunday, I wrote the Daily Diamond and didn't have one non-platoon hitter. Like, it just worked out that way, where like every single guy that I wrote up had two players at every position, 4 outfielders. All of them had the platoon.
Yeah,
So
platoon is important, but we've talked about this before. It's not everything. I mean, if you're against a weak pitcher in a great park, you don't need the platoon to be a good play.
yeah. Tell me it's okay to play Juan Francisco versus Chris Young just because dongs. Just tell me it's okay.
As a GPP guy, go ahead.
Who should I play at third base in my cash games?
I think it's going to depend on how the rest of your roster shakes out, but you're probably either going to be going with like Beltre if you have money to spend, Frazier if you don't already have too many like Matt Joyce home run or bust guys in your lineup, and if you're punting, you're going with like I don't even know, maybe Francisco. I don't know. But
Him and Chisenhall are the same price though on FanDuel.
Chisenhall, I forgot about him. I like Chisenhall.
Yeah. Yeah, I really like Chisenhall too, but I don't know how that game is gonna. We'll have to monitor weather, obviously. Also, Josh Harrison on DraftKings, third base eligible, leading off versus Ray.
Oh, I can see that. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, let's do outfield real quick. It's Trout, Calhoun, and Josh Hamilton. If you can fit them, like that's what you like. That's my outfield on FanDuel right now. Like for realsies. Jerome Williams is so bad.
I don't think he's as bad as people say. He's bad. Like, Trout is clearly the top option tonight. Calhoun and Hamilton are probably going to be top 10 outfield options. But they've both also been really cold lately. And I don't think Williams is as bad as people think. And it's not a good park. So they're not, like, locks for me by any means.
Yeah. I mean, Calhoun for 32 on FanDuel is a lock. Bro.
For 32, I can see it. I don't know if I'm calling him a lock, but there's a decent chance he would wind up in my lineup for that price.
And I mean, Mike Trout pricing error. He's 4,800 on FanDuel, so pricing
Listen,
error.
They need to get their tech guys to fix this thing. This is getting out of control now, Davis.
It's insane. Yeah, no, it is. Papa Cub just asked, you like Longoria, right?
Yeah, I mentioned him. He was like in that top 3 third base tier for me tonight: Beltre, Frazier, and Longoria.
Right. What do you think? What do you think about using the Dodgers outfielders against Mike Minor? I kind of like Kemp and Puig are kind of expensive, but Van Slyke tonight strikes me as like the best value option.
I think it depends on just how broken you think Minor is. If he's just like a little broken, then I think Dodgers are going to be overplayed tonight. But if you think he's really just like completely a mess, then Dodgers become options. For me, I haven't had enough of a chance to really look at him and see, but I think I'm somewhere in the middle.
I mean, Van Slyke is probably dinged a little bit in your system just because he doesn't have that many. He doesn't have that many at bats. Is that what it is?
He usually winds up pretty high in good matchups. It's just I think Minor's projected ERA right now is somewhere around 4, I think, or 3.95 or something like that. So if he is broken, he's a worse pitcher than that. So
Yeah.
it depends on what you think of him.
Yeah, I think Van Slyke is a pretty nice arbitrage play on Puig and Kemp, really, because those are both attractive options, and I think Van Slyke, when he gets bumped up this high in the order, is someone that you really want to look at rostering.
Yeah, and that's exactly it. Like in these kinds of matchups where he is batting cleanup, those are the times when he'll usually show up high. And if I were to drop Minor's projection,
I mean, this is the same Minor who got beat up by the Padres.
So. Yeah. It's tough to say though because the peripherals are still good. They've been pretty good the past few starts. It's just he's given up tons of home runs, so it could be that something's actually wrong.
Some of the peripherals have been. Now you and I disagree on line drive rate. I think line drive rate does have some value. And yes, I understand your point that it's like some dude sitting at a weird angle going, "Oh, that was a line drive," or "Oh, that was a fly ball." But when it's as dramatic as his, like the last time I wrote hitters up, his line drive rate was second worst in the league. Like if he hasn't pitched enough innings to be qualified, and I bet it's even worse after his last start because he got roughed up pretty bad last time.
Yeah, I'm not really gonna try to talk you out of playing Dodgers against Minor. I haven't had a good enough look to say one way or the other what I think you should do, but I can definitely see it. I think there's some real reasons to be concerned about Minor. The main reason I'm not all aboard tonight with him is that I think there's so many other options that if he isn't completely broken, you might wind up with your male appendage in your hand.
There we go. Why don't you give me some outfielders that you like, Derek? Because like I was just like whatever, dude. I'm rocking Mike Trout tonight, so I don't really have any other good advanced outfield plays.
We kind of mentioned them earlier. Like Josh Harrison is a good play tonight if that game gets in. We mentioned him as a third base play, but I think he qualifies at outfield too on DraftKings, right?
Yeah, and on draft day.
Yeah. Jay Bruce, I think, is a sneaky good play because he's starting to heat up. He's always been a good player, and even though he hasn't been great this year, he's playing well lately, and his price is still low enough where there's some real value to be had with him. So with the platoon against Joe Kelly and Great American, I think he's a really kind of a sneaky good play tonight. Matt Joyce, we talked about earlier when we were talking about the Rays with that park shift in the platoon against Tepish. He's, I mean, especially on, I think, FanDuel where he's like 2,800 or something.
Yeah, he's silly cheap.
Yeah, so you got to be looking at him.
I'm going to give 1 second. Along those lines, one player I actually like to take, even when they don't have the platoon, is Desmond Jennings, because he's like, because he steals against right-handed pitchers, and he can still get on base. So I like Desmond Jennings. He's pretty pricey on FanDuel, though.
Yeah, where he's not expensive, though. I mean, I have him as like a top 15 guy today, so I like that. I like Cespedes today going into Great American, even without the platoon, against Latos, who, like I said, I think he's kind of broken. He's not the same pitcher he used to be. Robbie Grossman, your boy, Stackstros, he's leading off tonight against Pino, so he's a
Get
great
that
one.
money. I mean, he is a really volatile player in a weird way. Not like, oh, he's going to go hit a home run or not, but he's either going to go like 3 for 4 with a walk and a steal and multiple runs scored, or he's going to go 1 for 5 with a caught stealing. Like, it's like he is just the and this is obviously completely anecdotal and probably in no way factual. But I also do play Robbie Grossman like all the time, so I'm pretty interested in his box scores, and he just strikes me as one of those weird dudes. But Pino is terrible.
So yeah, can definitely get behind Grossman where he's, I mean, 3,200 on DraftKings. That's awesome.
Yeah, 5 sure. All right, any other outfielders? We can get you out of here early, brah.
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay, guarantee you some dongs.
Let's do some dongs.
Brandon Moss is mine.
Really? Under the radar or?
Nope, that's just it. It's happening. It's happening tonight.
All right, go ahead. My obvious one is David Ortiz because he's David Ortiz and he's in a ridiculous park for power. So my under the radar is, let's say, Jay Bruce because, I mean, he's been a guy I've been excluding from lineups a lot lately, and I think a lot of people have been because he's been so bad. But the price is right for him, and the matchup is awesome. So, Jay Bruce.
Jay Bruce. My under the radar is going to be Van Slyke then.
Okay.
All right. My regret, I think, is going to be getting too optimistic about the Pittsburgh weather. Because I really do think, even if without the weather, Eric Ibar is probably just a straight-up better play than Mercer. Like, he really might be. But my unabashed, biased love for Jordy Mercer might kind of submarine some of my lineups.
I think my regret is probably going to not have Dodgers exposure because I'm not totally sure what to make of Minor, so I don't think I'm going to risk it in my cash games.
Yeah, that's actually definitely... You should at least play Van Slyke, dude. He's so cheap.
He is cheap.
At least put him in a GPP.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, Kitch. Probably don't have your headphones on, but we're going to wrap it up because Derek has some places to go. Anyone, if you are really mad at us for losing out on this last 10 minutes, come yell at us on Twitter. Just a quick recap of the NFL news. We have Sean Siegel, winner of the NFFC, coming on the team, and Evan Silva of Roto World and JJ Zacharyson of Number Fire going to do the shows with us. And, yeah, make sure you check the weather before your lineups. Signing off for Derek Carty, David Kitchen, and myself at Fantasy Insiders. Later.
Later.